Will that be of interest to you, or should we just skip it and just have an early dinner? All right. So the first thing I want to do with you is I'd like to give you a very simple system to create little moments that trigger the amygdala, right? You know the money sum example, things like that you can do. You already have one whole class, one whole category of things that will do that. Do you know what those are? Magic moments, exactly, right? So I'm going to assume that you can work your magic moments into different settings, whether they're corporate settings, whether they're educational settings, whether they're therapeutic settings. Really, there is enough in those things that you can adjust them and find ones that are relevant for different settings. So we're not going to necessarily cover that as a unit just because you already have that as a resource. There's another thing that you can do, which is much more down the money sum kind of route. And that's really to use what I call mind-bending language. We're not going to give you the whole mind-bending language course because, again, that's a 4-day course. And whilst this is a long course, going from 10 days suddenly to 2 weeks, it just adds more and more. Before you know it, you're here for the entire year going like, when can I get home and actually use any of this stuff, right? So I want to give you the quick nutshell guide to mind-bending language. Essentially, all you're going to do is you're going to use adjectives and adverbs to change the way people perceive what is normally being said. Would like to donate some money is understood as a phrase. It's a common phrase. It's easy to understand, isn't it? Would like to donate money some, there's something not quite right with it. You can't quite put your finger in it at first. It calls more attention to it because the amygdala, of course, is triggered by its novelty. See how that works? We can create the same novelty with any other kind of linguistic construct if we change the way the words are phrased or introduced so they're not done in an ordinary fashion. And here is a simple vocabulary that you can start practicing that'll do that. These are some of the what I would call mind-bending power words. Remember the power words from the first day? Yeah? This is the mind-bending language equivalent of power words, and they do for mind-bending language what power words do for regular hypnosis. So these are just some simple phrases. On their own, they don't really seem that unusual, do they? Other than, more than, aside from, only, all. They're pretty standard, normal, everyday words, aren't they? It's how you use them to modify a normal sentence or a normal idea that makes a difference. Other than all the things you think you know about running a business, what's more than you've done already that will make you more successful? Any ideas? Do you notice how your mind's already spinning a little bit into like, what? I didn't even consider that. That, my friends, is the amygdala being triggered. Aside from all the things you've already tried, what are only all those things that you've yet to do that you can't even consider properly? Which when you do, will help you solve that problem easily. Whose mind's starting to spin a little bit already? But think about it, right? I know we're not going to make it much worse. We're going to keep it at that simple level. Just think about this. We're using normal phrases. These are natural words of using language, aren't they? And they're not presented in a weird, convoluted, donation money, son, make, right? That's just like either I have an incomplete grasp of the English language, or I'm trying to do something and I'm very, very inept about it, right? The ideas I presented to you, I'll come to you in a second if I may, the ideas I presented to you are absolutely logical, and when you hear them, you think, yeah, they're supposed to make sense, but it takes a little bit of time for your brain to catch up. This is important. When you do use mind-bending language, the more of these phrases you put in to put more spin on, the more time you have to allow them to recover so that they can mentally process what you say next. Because if you've got too much of this, that mental process could create a mental gap where the information doesn't stick to anything because they just haven't had a chance to process it. Does that make sense? So there's a balancing act there. We'll get to play with it a little bit. Do you have a question? Do you want to come up for it? Or is it just a quick one?
Sure. I guess it was along the lines of what you just said, like overriding like the brain, for example. So let's say I was to go say the money sum thing to someone when I'm collecting charity. What if someone, like especially someone more like linguistically like forward or something like that, what if they were to challenge the grammar or the language that you're using?
Right. So in that sense, if it's the money sum example, of course, most people don't do that. But if you have someone who's particularly, for example, a school teacher, it might trigger their critical factor because they're used to looking out for these things to correct them, right?
Yeah.
In which case, that particular maneuver hasn't worked. Now, when we come on to mind-bending language, the beauty of this is the phrases or the statements you make will be grammatically 100% correct.
Oh, they will be.
They will. Did I make anything which was grammatically incorrect just now?
I guess not.
Aside from everything I said, what are all the things I haven't said yet that are only making sense when you consider them?
Yeah, I guess you have a point. And most people won't question them, right?
Say again?
Most people won't question them.
Well, there's no reason to. If anything, I'll sit there and go, what did he say? Huh? So you got to match it to the personality, you know? Someone who is mentally more alert, you can put a few more spins in. People who are just like, just don't make me think, man, then you put next to nothing in because it's more than enough already. Does that make sense? So you got to judge the context very clearly. Plus, if you overplay your hands a little bit, hence what I said a moment ago, you must give them processing time. They're going like, and if I see someone doing something like this, like, what the? I said, look, let me make this easy. I help you make better choices. Do you hear the reframe? But of course, now the reframe has somewhere to go, doesn't it? Are there any thought loops fighting my reframe? No, I don't have to stop the train anymore. It's already stopped dead in its track. I can change the passengers out and go, off you go, start running again. Does that make more sense?
Yeah, thank you for clarifying.
You're very welcome. Do you want to come on up? Is this useful, guys? Do you like this? The decision destroyer. Actually, no, objection destroyer. Decision destroyer is something else. What might that be? Go ahead.
Can you do that in the context of writings too?
In writing, absolutely. It's just in writing, you don't have the luxury of feedback, so you can't, you cannot as easily amend mistakes if you've gone too far. So in writing, I would suggest that you tone these things down significantly, so you're erring on the side of caution. Other than that, of course you can. Make sense, everyone? I have one more thing.
Yeah, I fortunately have the DVD set and was with you in New York when we had 2 days of MDL.
Pretty trippy, hey?
Very trippy, very, very trippy. I've used it, I'm still learning it, but I've used it in therapy. And the worst thing I've gotten is, I don't understand. And my response is, that's right. And I've got to say, my experience has been phenomenal using the mind-bending language.
Thank you. I appreciate you saying that. Yeah, why not give him a round of applause for doing good work. So, you know, bear in mind, we're going to give you, this is like the real executive summary of the executive summary of the short version of mind-bending language, right? But already you can see just with these little power words, these power phrases, mind-bending phrases, that you can already start creating these little spins inside people. Wouldn't that be fair to say?